Hi there, my name is John Entrican, also known as Mr. E. Join me for some art demos, art history, a little about my online art classes, and free art talks. So sit back and enjoy, and please contact me with questions or comments. Okay folks, I'm back with Nellie the Pirate Puppy. And here we go again. I've got the hat roughed in, as you've seen, and I put a patch over one eye rough. I've still got some stuff I'm going to do in here. Everything is still kind of rough. This eye is close, but not quite right. Pretty happy with what's going on down in here, but I think my goal right now should be to get some more of what's going on down here in the lower part of her photograph or portrait here, and then stop, go back and get really concentrated on what I'm doing with all of the fur on here, because right now it's got the right colors going, but they're rough, still rough. She's a very smooth pictured doggy. Show you. So this is what we're working from here, so I got a ways to go. Okay, now this is Nellie. Nellie is the dog, if you've listened to my other videos about this. Nellie is a wonderful dog that is owned and lives with my grandson Evan, and he also years ago had a cat named Lucy, which you may have heard me talk about in the previous videos, but I'm going to be talking about her just off and on now and then. She passed away about a year ago, just a little more than a year ago. She was a wonderful cat, lived with me for 4 years while Evan was in college, so I was very close to Lucy also. However, I can never seem to get the names right. If you watched the last video, you'll know that I kept calling Nellie Lucy, and oftentimes I call Lucy Nellie, so I get very screwed up with that. So he decided to do this for me. He made a little Nellie dog, Lucy cat. So I can't screw that up, and I have it sitting now right above the drawing, so if I start screwing it up, it's not her fault. I'm going to try to remember to just mention this is Lucy. I mean Nellie, damn it, Nellie. This is Nellie. Okay. Yes, I know I sound brain dead. But it's okay. I get through. Let's get started. All right. I'm going to start out with some really light tones here, but on her body over here. Just wanting to get some, she's got some brown going for her over here, but it gets very light and it gets very light fast. She's got a little bit over here. I'm going to get that in, but then it gets extremely light. Not white, but boy, it gets very close. And that's where we're going to go with some color in here. Even this is going to be too dark, so I'm going to just come down this far with it. This is her tag, which I think I will get in just because it gives you something to see down here nice and low, but I'll work on that a little stronger later. Right now I'm just wanting to get some basic scribbles in here to get some color. Alright, now I'm going to take a dark brown, or gray rather, this is just a dark gray, and I'm going to rough in, I'm going to rough in her collar in here. Now I'm only going over to about here, because when I get over here I got to put a latch and so forth for where her leash would hook onto. I know that Evan takes her out several times a day, and they go for walks around the neighborhood, which they both seem to think a lot of, which is nice. Now, I'm using pastel pencils that you see over here. All of these are my various pencils with various brands, everything from Generals to Stabelos to Faber-Castell to Derwent. So I'm covering them all. If you've seen any of my earlier videos where you've seen the actual other racks I have here, I probably have a good 200 pencils that I worked with. But the center section of this little palette gadget I made, that's all made out of foam core, it works really great with pastels because in the center section are the ones that I know I'm using the most right now. This one and this one, and I guess it was this one I was using earlier, just a little bit ago. I'm going to take this one now because it's got more color to it, but I'm going to see what I do over here on the more shadowed and colorful side. Here, not too bad. I can use some more of it in here. She's got some darker colors up in here. I can get all the way down to this collar. In here, it kind of lightens up when it gets over here, so I'm going to kind of stay out of there for a while. And she can get a little more color over in this area. Yes, this is Nellie. Keep reminding yourself this is Nellie. Jackie did a great job of trying to keep you organized. I'm sure it's working, but we'll give it a try. Here, this is light. Yeah, this has got a little too much pink to it, so I'm going to stay out of that. And what I'll do, even though I will modify it, we usually don't like to go right to white, but I think in this case, I'm actually going to go to a white pencil here and try to smooth some things out with her hair in here. This is a very light touch that I'm using with this. Most of the time with pastels, I do use an extremely light touch. I think in the previous video I talked about using, when I try to teach or describe any of my classes or any of these videos, I use the terms that I have 4 pressures. I either have this very light, which I'm hardly even touching it at all, like that, and it's making just a basic, very, very minimal mark. And then I have another one, which is a little firmer than that is number 3, and number 4 is pressing as hard as I can without breaking the pencil. But I usually try in my classes to mention it as I go along because it's one of the only ways the students can get a feel for what I'm actually doing. You can see the pencil move and you can see what I'm doing, but you have no idea how hard I'm pressing unless you've worked in a great deal of pastels yourself. And then you can kind of see by how much mark I'm actually making just how dark this is or is not. Now, I'm going to continue on this for a moment and get some more lightness over in here. I will tell you here that I'm also going to be showing you in a little while some pictures of the pet portraits I've done in the recent past. Some of them go back, I guess, a couple of years actually. Can't remember all the dogs and cats' names, but believe me, I've done my share, and I enjoy doing them. They don't go fast. I mean, you can do a rough sketch in an hour or 2 hours, but to really treat the animal properly and make the client happy, make them really feel like they can see their pet in there, you got to give it some real work. And it's not just true of pets. I do a lot of people portraits. I'm working on one right now for a professor who actually is for his students many, many years ago, and he passed away last summer, and they've asked me to do a portrait of him, but that's all much bigger and in oils. Maybe I'll get a chance to show you some of that someday if I get their permission after I get it done. That won't be for a few weeks because that takes even more time than a pet portrait, believe me. But they're also very exciting and interesting to work on. My technique is more realism, as you can see here, and I have a tendency to try to follow after a lot of the old masters. I'm going to give Nellie down here to about here, calling this the bottom of the picture. That way I can get in. I don't want to tape this down because I may need to turn it, but if I keep doing this, I will tape it down. I don't want it jiggling all over the place for you. I think if I just sort of give myself a limit of right down here, then, and with this I can use a light touch, but I can just sort of scribble my way down, because this is just a white, and I'm just trying to get some basics in here of color, or lack of color, just contrast. Yeah, John, you did a really good job there. You just covered up the, that's what happens when you do videos and you have to talk at the same time you paint. Anyway, I'll stay out of that. I think I'll give that a little gray here in a second, just so I don't make more of a fool of myself over here. But even the genius I am, I can make mistakes. Yeah, I can hear my students giggling right now. For that matter, anybody else who knows me. Okay, that'll make a little medallion when the time comes. It'll sit in there. Now I got to start giving this white blob down here some definition, some reality. So this is another light brown, and this will help give her body a little definition as far as three-dimensional goes. There's not much that I'm using here, and you can see it's not doing much, but it will start helping here to give it a little bit more tone. And this is on pastel matte paper. If you haven't watched the other videos and heard me talk about it, I love this stuff. It's really great. Comes in various colors. This is, I think, this might be called, I think, a light gray. And it is really good stuff. I've tried, I don't know, you want to think how many different pastel papers. And a lot of them are good, but UArt's sandpaper pastel paper comes in, I think, 5 different grits or 4. It's really nice, but it's just not quite right for me. It's got just a little bit too much tooth to it. I prefer working with this and doing portraits with this, pet portraits, people portraits, Yes, I've done many people portraits in pastel also. People who, to be honest, just feel like they like pastels. Plus, you can't afford oils, which are much more time consuming, and they do take a lot more effort, so they have to cost a lot more. Sorry. But they're all a pleasure for me. Otherwise, I get a real job. Which I had one or two years and years and years ago. I've been doing this as a full-time job for 43 years, since 1980. Pretty much, anyway. I did some other little diversionary things in there off and on, but for the most part, I've been, and of course before that, I was an illustrator, I worked as an art director, all that stuff. But in 1980, I decided I didn't want to participate in business and society as it was anymore. So I quit and just did pictures from then on. I've enjoyed it ever since. No regrets. Alright. I'm going to, I think I will actually use a little, this is artist tape or drafting tape. It's a low tack tape. It's not as sticky as regular masking tape would be. So put it down here, a little bit over here, and that will keep it from moving so much. I think that will keep it from wiggling for you while you're watching it. Now, let me get I'm going to work down here just a little longer because I really feel like I've got to get this to feeling right as far as the fur. Right now, her fur is very short. It's really short hair, and I don't want her to look shaggy the way she does right now. So I've got to find ways of, now I could go all the way to something like this, or one of these. And I'll do a little bit of that just to show you what it's like. If I do this, it starts blending. It'll blend the whole thing here if I let it, by doing this. And that's not bad, but I prefer blending with the pencils themselves. And if I have to get real serious, I have these. These are known as Trillions. I just love saying the word Trillion. Makes me sound like I am somebody. I can do these, especially if you're in tighter, smaller spaces. And I will use them here and there, but I don't want the blending to kind of smoosh everything too much. And then you can start seeing it looks a little gray in the process. So I prefer not to, but I do have to get a little color going in there. So I'm just going to try to get a little bit of coloration going. And I mean just a little bit. This is a general pencil here. They're a little harder than the other ones, but that isn't putting them down. They've got their value in their place. They sharpen much better. You don't have to hand sharpen these. You do all the others, or otherwise they'll just grind up in a pencil sharpener forever. So this has its, and as you blend with a pencil or other pencil, you're blending it in. So you're getting rid of marks down here. And that's much nicer to do than using an actual stump, is what some of those are called. But you also have this magic tool right here. That's a very good one. You ought to see my studio and my hands and everything else by the time I get through a day's work of this. I'm crossing the directions here purposely, so I get a little color thrown in. but at the same time, by shifting directions, I'm adding color and getting rid of some of the scratchy lines I made with the white earlier, which is also nice. Well, I'm going to go ahead and work on this for a bit, but I'll tell you what, before I do that, I've just been telling you I do pet portraits all the time. So I do, and I'm going to show you a few, just a few of these now, and then I'll get back to here, and then we'll see where Nellie goes. So let's take a look at some pet portraits for a bit. And here is one that is, I can't remember their names, I'm sorry, I feel bad about that. Most of these are on a 12 by 16 size, roughly, and that's sort of what the client wanted. They're on mostly the pastel mat, but some other papers too. There's a Canson paper, Mitienta papers that I use some, but they're a little coarse and they're better for just sketches. Here's another one here. I can't remember his name, but these are pictures that the families brought me. And sometimes I'm required to do a sketch because I get all different kinds of pictures, but yet the client wants to have all four of them in the same picture. So I had to dream this up to do this painting, which turned out rather well, I think. And this gentleman had 4 dogs. So here's another one, German Shepherd. Like I say, client sends me pictures and they said he just loved that rubber ball, so you get a rubber ball. This one is a boxer, and a very serious looking boxer. This one, his name I do remember. His name is Charlie, and actually this was the dog of a gentleman that I went to high school with. 60 years ago? Yeah. Wait, that's a long time. And there's one more here. I've forgotten his name. And this one, these beagles, not all of them, but a lot of them look so sad, but they really weren't. Some of the other pictures, they're hopping around, happy little fellows, but I have to do the one that the client likes the best. This is a cat. I did a series of cats from very, very bad photographs, so this is a little rough, but the client was giving these away from kind of rough photographs they took to friends. One more. This is a threesome that I put together, and this person had 2 dogs and a cat, and you'll notice this cat. This cat has almost like fangs down here, and I had to ask the client a couple of times, are you sure? Because yes, those teeth always stuck out like that. So there's one more, and this is a little dog again. I've forgotten his name. Anyway, we'll look at some more, but right now let's get back to the painting and we'll see where that takes us. Let's go back here and get some work done on her. I'm going to get into here. This has got more length to her hair in here. There's more actual fuzzy going on there. So I'm going to move down here now, though, as I said earlier, and just kind of rough some more. I just want to feel like this is smooth enough and more like her fur, and with a little shadowing going on. A little bit more yellow coming in through here, brown, and then I'll move back up into this area where there is more. Before I go, I think the thing to do here now is to do this, work here, but then get this collar in really nice, because I've got some weirdness to put in here for where she connects up. So we'll see that. Let's see what happens in this area for a while. And I think what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and start playing with my various pencils here, but I'm going to let you listen to some good music while I'm just working away over here. Let's see what happens if we do that. So let's start the music. Alright, you can see that I've gotten some more work done in here, but I've got to now start working more into here. And that gets kind of subtle, but we are using some near whites right over here, just where his little chin goes up, because there's a little more lightness right in there. Hope you get a kick out of just watching and listening to the music. I hope you manage to stay awake. It's okay if you didn't. You can be back now, as they say. Got a little bit of a neckline working in here, which is kind of nice. Where it gets light and dark again. Here in the center, it's kind of staying dark, but you can almost see some of the fur kind of angling around in here. So I can go ahead and let it do some of that. And the same thing over here, but then it gets a little different when I get past this point here. Once I get to here, I need some more gray. Up in here, and here certainly needs some more. It goes all the way up to there with a little darkness. Comes down in here. Now I can use the white back up in here. Not too hard. Number 2 or 3, maybe. Just to separate the jowl out there a little bit, and then use it with a lighter touch to kind of blend things in as it comes down this way. Okay, now I got some gray that I can get in right in here after that white. And then I can get some more of the white over here. And that allows some of this to kind of come over the collar just a touch. Kind of like the other side did, just a little bit. Now I'm pressing. Just want to get that over the collar just a touch there. Come up here where there seems to be a bit of a highlight. Right through there. And I think we're getting pretty good in there. That's not bad. Now, up in here, we got to separate this jawline here where there's a real highlight going on in there. Okay, that helps. And that'll come all the way up like that. And there'll be some lightness coming in here. You know, until you actually spend hours looking at a photograph of whatever it is you're drawing, certainly in this case, a pet, you don't really notice all of the subtleties, or maybe you're not even aware of the range of values, that meaning the light to darkness of some of the things that you're looking at. It becomes much different as you work through them, finding the details as you go. Now, it's got a lot of lightness around her eye here, sort of helping the eye stand out a little bit. It's very short hair, so I'm kind of going in every direction, try to lighten things up. And then out here, where it gets much lighter out on this side, I can use the grays because there's not much color out here. Not much at all. It's mostly just grays because of the white fur. Got a little color going down there. I don't want to break that up too much. But I'm up in here. That gets darker and comes down here. But I do have to get a little bit more of the color that's sort of floating in there. Just a little bit. And it kind of comes out toward the ear and down some. And it might be a bit overdone, so I'll just tap it down a bit here. That's not bad. These are fun to do, and you get to where you really just sort of fall in love with the process. Out in here, before I get to the ear, I got a jawline. Now her jaw doesn't come all the way out there, of course, so it starts more in here with just shadow of the ear. And that way, her actual skull comes right about to here, and then we have to kind of bring it in a little bit, because by the time it gets up here, it's in quite a bit. She's still coming out some there. And what happens right there at the very base of it, of that joint, is there's a little bit of color, just a touch, and then there's a little bit of a genuine highlight in there before it gets into the ear itself. So we're not doing too bad there. Now, the ear itself in here, it's got folds, kind of interesting folds. So to do this, I'm going to be using a little bit of everything in here, starting out with maybe some of this, just a touch of this. It might be too red. Yeah, that's too red. I don't like it. Don't like that. Let's try this. That's nicer. There's a lot of gray going on in here too, so we gotta be aware of that. And again, this is ear hair and fur. It's a little bit longer in some ways than you might, at least a little more visible actual fur than there might be in parts of the face, but not a lot. You'll see what I mean when we go along here. It's got a highlight, genuine highlight out here on the outer edge. It comes in like that, and there's a little more of a highlight. Excuse me. That comes down there. So we'll get those nailed in, and then we can work our way back. This is kind of a darker gray than I need. Let's see what this one does, because there is some genuine gray going on out here. And then over here, there's a very definite gray that comes in here. May have gotten that a little too dark. We'll see when we get there. I can add a little bit more color to it. this is down too far, so I gotta lighten up in here some, and then take that gray up this direction more. It's almost touching the other, but not quite. In there. Now, got a real highlight on the outer edge here as it comes down, but it kind of disappears. And then we've got something that's just a touch darker. Let's see what that would do. In there. Starting to get ready, Ben John. Don't go with it. Light gray, kind of tamp that down a little bit as far as color goes. Got some gray going down here, a little darker than that. A little more of this really comes up here, but then there's this really nice little fold that comes in there and it rolls down this way. Here, this has got some hair running right through it to kind of make it more realistic. Touch more gray here. A little more happening there. We're getting there. Slow and tedious. I'm never quite able to find the right light brown. I'm going to go in search of more light browns. I'm going to roll through the palette over here. Let's see what. I think there's way too much red in it. Let's see what you do. A little color. Okay, I think we're heading in the right direction. Now, here comes the tricky part. I'm going to find a darker gray, but not too dark, which that wasn't dark enough. So we may have to go here, see if that's going to do what we want. Yeah, it's still not quite there. I think what I need to do is nail it down with some of this, which might almost be too dark. No, I guess not. I'm going to come over here with some of it that I know I can put other color over to kind of tame it if it gets out of hand. There's definitely more color on this side. Also, a fact really remains is that as long as Evan agrees with me, if I don't hit these colors exact, it's not as important as it is to get a good picture. Still got to be Nellie. But nobody's charging me with actually reproducing a photograph. Wouldn't want to do that anyway. Yeah, I think we're on the right track. We just need to, the edges of this ear. Some of the others are not quite white, they're just highlights. So I need to make sure I don't have them to the point where they look like there's a white line everywhere. Okay, we're going to live with that for a while. See how we feel. We do know this area in between here is going to get darker. I think we're going to have to go all the way to the famous black here. No, I'm not. I'm going to go to a really dark brown in here. Just don't want that to look too blackish. Just enough bed going there. May have overdone that just a touch. So I think I got to get some a bit of fur-like things coming out here. So I'm going to do a little bit of this because they're out of there. And then as I get down here, I'm going to enlarge it just a touch. So it needs to get just a little bit bigger right in there. Tedious stuff, isn't it? Really not liking that little double line that's getting through there. So I need to get rid of it. I'll start by just taking something like this and seeing if I can remove some of it there. And then seem to be doing what I want. So now I need a soft pencil, but I need something that's very light and very soft. This might be these are just supposed to be a combination of for portraiture, but I've never really tried doing a human portrait with it. That's where they originally came from. I think I need something really softer. These are the Pastels. Interesting, I still can't seem to get rid of that black line. So we do something like this to make that black line go away. Now I think I'm down to the paper. So I'm going to go to the extreme and try to cover it up with this. Which I guess I just did. And that's the head shape I was looking for. Now I got to change the colors. But not by much. It does make a difference when you start playing around with different brands of pencils, because some of them are much harder and much softer. There's a big argument. There's now we call it arguments, but there is a disagreement between pastel painters that which is the softest. And I think the Stabilo Carbothalos, I also like saying that word, are the softest. But there are those who will absolutely insist that it is the Faber-Castells are the softest. Yeah, I kind of like that much better. Maybe not quite that much. There. And this is also the kind of thing where I'll come back tomorrow and go, no, John, you've got that wrong. Can't help it. A little more crossing here and there. And okay. Let's see what we can come up with here. One thing I'm bothered with right now, and I gotta fix it now, that eye is bothering me right there. It's not round enough. So I'm going to do my best to take care of that situation right now. And I gotta find it. Let's see what this brown does. There, that's more round. That's what Nellie needed. Now I'll go back with the black. My black's wearing down. I'm gonna, after I stop these videos, I've got a lot of pencil sharpening to do. You can see one of my shorts on YouTube about how I sharpen the pencils. I think I also did explain it in the very first Nellie video. But it's my way, and I'm not the only one. A lot of pastel artists use it, where you're using a combination of an X-Acto knife and sandpaper. Got a lot of gray here, but down below the gray it gets darker again. So you can see the set of her eyes, John. And then you can come back up this way. Get a little more darkness out here. You're only showing them one eye, John, so you better do it right. There, not too bad. Now I'm going to play a little bit more around here, trying to get some of that hair to not look quite so scraggly, quite so long. It's very short hair. And it's not just whites, but it is using some very, very light colors, which I always seem to struggle with, but I'll come up with something. I'm sorry I spend so much time over on my palette looking at things, trying to find the right colors, but that's a big part of it, to be honest with you. I spend a lot of time making sure I've exhausted. There's no such thing as a right pastel pencil. You'll always have to use combinations. You know, I mean, that might be an exaggeration, but in my world, I've never yet just been able to pick up 6 pencils and they were all just right to do an entire portrait. Not going to happen. Still got some gray going in here. Don't want to lose all of the sign of hair, sign of coloration, but since we've given Nellie this pirate hat, it changes things a little bit as far as what her forehead's going to look like. I got a lot of work to do up here. Evan has told me the whole story behind the pirate is that Evan told me that Nellie was quite a hunter, and the neighborhood always was getting a kick out of watching Nellie out hunting. And it turns out what she hunts for, he lives in an urban situation in apartments, all of that in a very nice neighborhood, but underneath the houses, which have sort of like a crawl space in some of them, underneath the crawl spaces, there are rats who found their way in. And it's a nice neighborhood, but I used to live in New York. You see rats. You get comfortable with rats. You have friends that are rats. Because you don't go anywhere in New York without rats. They're famous. Anyway, he had some, but Nellie didn't like them, so she was a ratter. She hunts rats. So that's where the whole idea of making Nellie into some kind of an unusual kind of character. I didn't want to turn her into some kind of a police authority, so we went for pirate. But he did ask me when I saw him last, can you please put on the hat and on the patch the head of a rat? So we can, because I'm going to put feathers on this and do some more stuff up in here. But I thought it was kind of cute. He came up with the idea I want rats on here. So he will get them. He gets what he wants. So to both of my grandsons. The one who's editing all of this is my other grandson. He does a great job with this. If it weren't for him, I couldn't do any of this. Believe me, I could. Anyway, looking for more pencils, folks. Never quite happy. There's not much color in Nellie's face, but just enough to make it important to get it right. Okay, let's add a little bit more. I gotta get a little bit more of these hairline darks thrown in. Just a few. That. Maybe a little bit more darkness right there. Okay, we're doing pretty good there, I think. Now, I'm going to try to get a little bit down here. Not too unhappy here, but this has got a little dull looking. It's too dull gray stuff. So I got to jazz that up a little bit. And the way her skull goes with her snout is there's a definite distinction right there. Quite sharply distinctive at that point. So we're going to put that in. And now she's got some color. Got to find some color that will go in here. Not a lot, just a little bit, all the way down through. And this grayness here stays kind of light, but it is there, and it goes all the way out to here. But I see I've got too much gray up here in the upper part. So I gotta lighten this up a little bit in here. That also, I think, helps to define the shape of her eye socket a little bit better. And this is pretty good down in here. I just need to stroke over that a little bit so it doesn't get too distinctive and dark. A little bit more like this right in there. So I separated it out. That's not bad. Now I gotta get a little more color here on the actual snout developing here. And it's going to come this way a little bit more. Yeah. It's interesting how much gray there is on here. She's not a gray dog, that's for sure. But you get a lot of grayness coming out in the process. In here, not too bad. Got some serious white there. I really do. Oops. Stop throwing the pencils. got some real distinctive lights right in here with a highlight, and it comes down. There's a little more distinction in there, but it really comes down here. These are strong highlights, especially right down here. That highlight comes all the way back in, but it's also playing around with her whiskers, which have got grays around them. So I'm not going to just sweep a color in there. I'm going to try to dab it in and try to, I won't put the whiskers in yet. I got to go in at the very end. But I think right now she just needs to get a little bit more of the light colors coming in. Not too unhappy with that. It does have to get a little more gray right in there. Not too bad. This comes up and then it blends a little better than I've got in here. Okay, we've done some good work in this. I'm going to try now to get a little bit more distinction going on in here. And to that, there is some color coming down between her eyes here. It's even more than I've got going here. It's got to be a little bit darker. That, of course, freaks me out because I can never find the right color. But there are two ways of attacking this. One of it is that I do this. This is a very dark color, of course. And I get some of this in here, up here, and right in here. It's kind of dark up here. I have to remember these got this hat on, so this mark that I'm making is way high. But it comes down here, just at the top part of her eyes, between her eyes, and then it spreads out a little bit. So there is some coloration going on there. It comes down, but then when it gets down there, it's no longer that color. It seems to drift off into this gray. And I'm trying to use a blending sort of stroke because I don't want to end up with too many of the hair pieces. Now, I got this patch over the eye, but I have to think about what her eye really is doing. So it gives me some shadowing here, and I've got to build a lot more on that. One of the things I can do at this point to help is to give it. Now, I'm going to try to make this look like shiny leather. So it's going to have that. I haven't gotten it, but it'll probably have something like this. I'm going to get in here with some real dark here. I'll bring some hair over that, no fur over it when the time comes. But I know I gotta get these dark lines in at this point. And you can still have a little highlight coming across it. A little more of this going on in there. Not sure how I'm going to handle that part. Definitely dark over here because this is almost shadow there. So that's not too bad at this point. I'll get a little highlight going in there for now, and we'll have to figure out once I sharpen this thing what more kind of damage I can do over there. I know we got some semi-darks going on over here below her eye and come down this way. All the way around here. It's a lot similar. I mean, obviously it's the same dog, different side of the face. but I'm coming over here with it. So I'm looking at a lot of this as I see it being covered here. So I know there's a lot of distinct darkness right here that comes out from the eye. So I think the best way to handle that is to give some upward strokes in there and then let there get to be, because there would be, just as there was on the other side, some darkness right in there. And then on the other side of her head, where the patch is, got the patch to here, but as it comes out, she's got a light spot that comes out this way before I get into the darkness that will be in here, because most of this in here is going to have some form of gray on it that comes all the way down. A little color in there, but not much. And I'm down into here. Got to bring that gray all the way down to her snout down here. This is a good time for me to do just a touch of that. Don't like to overdo that. Okay. Now she's got some genuine. Now up in here, since we got her ear half covered up with the actual hat. The ear's coming down to here, but then this gets lighter in here, but it's still kind of a darkish brown in here, because it's all living in the shadow. Until it gets over to here, this is actually comes down below her eye. I'm having to make it up a little bit as I go now because of the fact she's got an eye patch on. But I can go with that, and I'll work on this ear after I get through with some very light color. I'm just going to put this in just to help me figure out what she's got hair. It goes right out here, just a little bit. But it helps to render what her hair will be doing as it works its way down this way into here more. And that may change what I did over here a little bit. But we'll see what that does. And then it gets quite light right in there. And then I got some real light in here as she comes down in here. Value is very important. We'll talk more about that before I get done. Value is the difference between the light and the dark. You got three things. You got chroma, which is how bright the color is. You got hue, which is what color is it? Red, blue, green. And then you got value, and that's what our eyes really become very sensitive to. That's the reason you can see a certain amount, even in dark, where all you've got is the black and white of whatever light there is coming in from wherever. But that makes a huge difference. Our eyes are much more sensitive to value than they are to anything else. Got to get some more brown in. I think we're going to have to actually use real brown in here. It's got a lot of shadow, so it seems to have a lot more visible color going on, coming all the way down that far. And it has to blend better. Well, I don't know about you folks, if you're still hanging out or not. Hope you are, but at least a few diehards. But I think I'm going to stop here and take a break, and then we'll pick it up again. I'm real close to being done with Nellie, and we're just going to put a hat and patch on her, and we're good to go. So I'm going to stop things right now. Please like, subscribe, notify, and let me know if you have any comments about the work we're doing already. And we'll talk more about these things later. Good luck on the rest of your painting adventures if you're doing any, and I'll see you soon.